I'm Nadja. I'm here today to do a deep dive into research and discovery for platform products. So, first, a little bit about myself. I have a little over 10 years of experience in product management, and I've led across a wide range of domains from direct to consumer products to enterprise software and developer platforms. I've had the privilege of building at companies like Pivotal Software, VMware, and now at Etsy, where I lead teams focused on delivering an exceptional development experience for hundreds of engineers to build great products that delights our end users. I started my career in an unconventional way, as many PMs do, working at a small startup agency wearing many hats. When the company planned a relaunch for the website, I was hooked, and I haven't looked back. I have a deep passion for customer research. This stems from my early days in product management and working closely with a great team of designers that led me on a path to deeply integrate research into my day-to-day work. And this has served me really well, especially as a platform product manager, as you don't often see the role of designer and researcher, so it's really handy to have these skills. Today, I'll share an overview of platform products, a definition of what makes platform products unique, and the role of product management in platform products. I'll share the value of research and how it can help you avoid some common failures, and I'll also share some methods and approaches, as well as some examples of using research in the real world. My sincere hope is that you can learn from my experiences and my failures. If you're not already using customer research in your platform products today and you want to learn more, great. I'll share a step-by-step overview of how to approach it. If you're already using customer research, I'll share some tips and tricks that can really help. I've been a part of a few pivots in my career and a few failures too, and I've talked to other platform product teams that have had similar experiences. Tell me if any of this sounds familiar. You sunk months into building something you're sure is a game changer, and then it's quietly shelved. Or maybe you've built powerful API features, but the adoption rate is not exactly viral. Or maybe you've built something that worked really great for one team, like really nailed it, but then other teams looked at it like it was alien or foreign. These are some of the challenges that come up in platform product work. And these come up really from a disconnect from the technical idea and vision and from the customer, where we just really haven't truly grasped the needs of the actual people using it. And that's why I'm here talking to you today about research and discovery for platform products. A thoughtful approach to research can help you avoid some of these product challenges. Before we dive in, let's ground ourselves in what are platform products. I'll start with a definition from Marty Kagan. Platform products are foundation software that is used by application developers to create end-user solutions. What I like about this definition is that it highlights the developer and the ultimate consumer of the product, the end user. There's a few examples of platform products. AWS is a classic example. Netflix has internal platforms for recommendations and experimentation. Google Maps is both a consumer product, but it's also a platform for external developers to add powerful location-based services. And at Etsy, we have internal platforms across web, apps, data, experimentation, and more that our internal development teams use. So when we're talking about product managers on platform products, what we're talking about here is not so different from a PM on a consumer-facing product. I've seen engineers or tech leads take on this role successfully, but typically as you'll find that as the platform grows and your company grows, you'll see the platform team grow as well, and a need to more formally define the roles and responsibilities. Something I want to call out here is communicating the value of platform work. This is potentially one of the most challenging areas of platform product management. The value can sometimes be less tangible. Instead of driving conversion rate on a consumer-facing product, maybe you're unlocking the capability that helps a developer create a feature that drives conversion rate. Research can really help with this communication piece, demonstrating the value of the work with evidence and building alignment and buy-in through co-creation. And I'll share more about that later. Platform products are unique and that you need to be thinking about two customer segments: the developer, who's often the internal developer sitting right next to you, or it could be a third-party developer that's integrating with your platform. They are part of the product team that can also include PMs, designers, analysts, and these are the customers that are building and shipping end user facing experiences. The other segment is the end user, or the customer that is using the features that product teams are building. They are ultimately the consumers of the product. At Etsy, for example, these are the buyers and sellers. To be successful, platform product teams need to deeply understand the developer needs and the problems developers are solving for their end users. Taking it a step further, platform product teams also need to know where the business is going. Are you scaling and growing and need to support hiring hundreds of engineers? Are you exploring new verticals that may require novel technology or integrations? Knowing this can help you understand how you need to shape or grow your platform to support long-term business needs. And by understanding the business, the end users, and the developers, you can balance solving both near-term needs and longer-term strategic outcomes. And there really is a direct correlation between the success of a company's platform and a company's ability to deliver great outcomes to their end users. A successful platform helps product teams deliver quality user experiences efficiently and effectively. Platform teams can do this by providing things like shared services, streamlining processes that reduce overhead, enabling reliable performance, or partnering together on technology shifts that unlock new opportunities to deliver to end users. Remember those failures I shared before? They fit into these buckets. So if you want to de-risk, save time, money, deliver value sooner, research is really your best friend. I'm going to call out this last one here, that developers don't want to use it as a common failure, probably the most common. It might be usable and feasible, but developers don't see the value in adopting it. Changing behavior is tough. So there's got to be some pretty clear value to adopt something new or change a way of working. So let's dive into some platform product research. Research can be a lot of things: competitive or industry research, quantitative data through surveys or usage metrics. There are a lot of great resources out there on defining and leveraging metrics for platforms: uptime, testing coverage, release speed, and a lot of great resources on leveraging industry insights to make informed decisions. But I'm going to focus my time today on customer research and platform products, the talking to people kind of research. This focuses on understanding the why customers find something valuable or not, why it's usable or not. Wait, but let's just get ahead of some of these questions. Do I really need customer research and platform products? These are a few questions that I've heard in the past, particularly when product management is new to platform teams. Engineers are both the creators and the consumers. Don't they already know what engineers need? I sit right next to a developer and they said they want it. Isn't that enough? Or this is a technical space. How can I do a user interview about an API? There's nothing to look at. For these first two questions, the answer is yes and. Platform product developers have deep technical expertise and are often the architects or most senior engineers at your company. However, they might be missing some critical context and understanding of how customer-facing developers operate, the constraints they are under to ship quickly and fast, the workarounds they may have created to navigate their unique use cases, or the upcoming features they need to deliver that could be made more smooth. One developer may say this could be helpful for them, and that's great. But platform products can be most effective when they can scale to meet the needs of many. Understanding the use cases of many developers working in different parts of the platform can help ensure you have a good understanding of what will work for most use cases and make trade-off decisions when something does need to be unique for a certain developer segment. And yes, you can do interviews for products without a UI. I'll share some tips. As a PM, your role is to help bring all of this customer context to your teams. You can help define when and how to make this happen, and I'll show you some tools on how to determine that. Research on platform products may be daunting or complex, but you can take the same approach as you would for any consumer-facing product. You're on your way. You just need a few platform-specific tips and tricks. Okay, let's look at the high-level process for research before we dive into each of these areas. First, leveraging existing research. Forming a plan, probably the most important step. You've got to get this right and spend time here before diving in. Next is conducting the actual interviews, and then finally synthesizing and sharing of the information. Now let's dive into each one. Let's start with leveraging existing research. This can provide valuable context and can save you time, which is why I love to call this out specifically. I've seen many a time when there is already some existing research that can be relevant to leverage before starting from scratch. Slack conversations, support requests are really underutilized data sources that can be used. Talk to your team, get a sense of what research and knowledge currently exists in this space. What are stakeholders looking for? This is a great time to start forming a picture of the open questions and form a better understanding of the problem. Is this a 0 to 1 project, or is this an improvement to an existing product? Next, start to form a plan. This is all about getting your research goals together and forming your interview plan and writing your script. One of my personal favorite parts of research is the assumptions exercise. This is essentially writing down all the things we believe to be true about the project. The best way to do this is to get the team together to do a brain dump of assumptions. What do we believe to be true about the technology? What do we believe to be true about the customers or developers who will use this product? What do we believe to be true about their workflows and how they will interact with the product? Taking the time to get stuff out of people's heads up front is critical to the success of the project. I love it when two people on the team have assumptions that are opposed to each other. And that really doesn't come up until we do the exercise. Our assumptions are things that we believe to be so true that we often don't verbalize them. Next, you'll start forming your research goals. What are you trying to learn? What do you need to learn fast? Because if you get it wrong, it would lead to failure. Where do you know the least? What do you need to learn so you can make a decision? Start to write down the research questions you have. These start to form the goals of the research. So at the end of the day, you can say, we set out to learn the answers to these questions. These could be something like, will this new feature easily fit into an existing workflow? Will developers understand how to get started? Will this save developers time? So there's some skill to writing an interview script. Interview questions should be open-ended, non-leading, and should not include multiple questions in one. You may have heard the framing, if you ask a participant, what's hard about this tool? You're potentially biasing their response. Instead, ask them, tell me about your experience using this tool. In general, people want to please and are optimistic. That's human nature. So there's some ways that you can get around navigating that to get unbiased answers. You may have heard, ask someone how often they'll go to the gym next week. Maybe they'll say every day. Instead, ask them how many times they went to the gym last week. Maybe that was just once. You'll get a more honest answer. You can try this with platform product interviews too. Tell me about the last time you used this API. You really want to get a true picture of your customer's experience. Okay, so you've done your assumptions exercise, your research goals, and your interview script. Now on to conducting your interviews. The most important thing is to make sure you've identified the right customer segment for your research. If your research goals are more generative, make sure you're talking to a wide range of customers. New engineers, tenured engineers, different parts of the platform, varying levels of technical expertise. If you know your target customer for your product, make sure you're talking to them specifically. Maybe that's a machine learning engineer for a recommendation solution. Something I've also found helpful for doing research on an existing product is find people that are using the product and some that haven't. That can give you a great perspective of how you could improve. Generally, the guidance is talking to about 5 people, and you usually start to see patterns after that time. At a minimum, you should have 2 people conducting the interview, someone who's leading, asking the interview questions, and someone who's taking notes. And this does not need to just be the product manager. Anyone can and should participate. Having multiple perspectives to ask questions and observe provide a more complete assessment of the interview. An engineer in an interview might be keeping an ear out for technical gotchas or questions, while a product manager may be keeping an ear out for usability concerns or value gotchas. You can also have 1 or 2 other people in the room to observe or ask follow-up questions too. And finally, be mindful of creating an environment that feels welcoming and inviting for participants. I like sharing an intro that there are no wrong answers and we're working together to solve a problem. These are your peers after all. The camera on for video calls helps to create a comfortable environment too. Aside from the traditional running through an interview script for customer research, which is fantastic, I wanted to share a few variations of customer interview types you can use depending on your research goals. One approach is to share and co-create a user journey. This is particularly helpful when you're trying to understand the current workflow of a developer. Maybe this is more of a generative approach to understanding pain points and opportunities in the existing user journey. You can start by mapping out a high-level user journey based on the information you know today and ask folks, what's missing? Where are their gaps? You can take a more informal approach to this co-creation process. As you interview more people, you can fill in more and more gaps and identify where the user journeys differ between teams and where there may be some opportunity to identify patterns. The next approach is a now and next user journey. This is a helpful process for creating a user journey that shows what the state could be in the future. This is really helpful for identifying potential issues or gaps in the future state before actually executing on it. This can serve as a roadmap and selection of user stories that need to happen to create a user outcome. Try slicing out the MVP into what needs to be true to build a minimum set of user actions. And finally, a usability test. A usability test for a technical product evaluates how real users, usually engineers, interact with a technical interface or workflow to identify pain points, misunderstandings, and inefficiencies. For many technical or platform products, you won't have a UI. It may be an API, or maybe subscribing to a webhook or using a CLI. You can gain insights on usability by potentially sharing documentation and asking questions about how they would complete a task, showing a prototype of your planned solution and asking about integrating into their existing workflow. And you could also observe a developer using their own developer environment and asking them to try using the CLI, trying a new command and seeing what steps they take. Asking people to say what they're thinking out loud really helps. These conversations can often be pretty low lift, but you still need to know what you're trying to learn from the conversation. An anti-goal for a usability test is asking, what feedback do you have for me? While that might be an okay start to a conversation, participants may struggle to know how to answer. Try getting specific. Say something like, I noticed you hesitated before installing that SDK. Why? Or maybe you just received that error in the prototype. What information were you expecting to see? Okay, so after the interview, next on to synthesizing. So this is really all about aggregating and organizing all of the information that you've gathered, taking all those interviews and notes and starting to organize them. I find that debriefing after each interview can really help speed up this part of the process. Tag or label by source, persona, stage, or feature if it's relevant. If there are open questions or areas that need clarification, the great news is your customers are often still in the building, so it's easy to follow up and clarify with a quick Slack message if needed. Next is identifying themes, and this is really where the magic happens. Look for repeated pain points, goals, mental models, language, or usage behaviors. Use affinity mapping to group similar insights across users, and there are some helpful tools to do this. For example, in Miro, they just launched an AI tool that can help aggregate interview notes. If you've done an assumptions exercise, you can go through your assumptions to see if they've been validated, invalidated, or partially validated, or where you may need more information. This can be a really exciting time to reflect on what you thought to be true at the beginning of the process, and then circle back to learn that maybe your initial instincts weren't actually what customers needed. Now we're turning those observations into insights. So you might ask yourself, all right, what did I learn? What does this mean? Why is it happening? Start prioritizing based on frequency, severity, business impact. You can use frameworks like jobs to be done. And pressure test your insights with stakeholders or other data sources, like quantitative data or support tickets. And now turn those insights into actions. Those could be user stories, backlog items, opportunities for more research, or some low-hanging fruit that you can tackle right away. And last but not least, share it. Create artifacts to share, user journey maps, personas, insight decks, and more. Packaging all of your hard work and research into something that's really easily consumable is immensely helpful. Include your goals, your interview approach, your themes, and actions. I also find that customer quotes can be really helpful for making it feel relatable and meaningful, especially for technical products. Quotes like, sometimes I go to a new part of the code and I just don't know what to do. Or, wow, this saved me 10 steps. And this can be a great time to share back with the people you interviewed. And other parts of your organization might find your research helpful too. Research really does help build alignment and buy-in. Remember at the beginning of this conversation, I shared that one of the reasons platform products fails is because developers don't use them. When you're working with internal developers as your customer, you have a big advantage to bring people along in the process. Share back what you learned with the people you interviewed and let them know how you're listening to their needs and turning it into action. This can help build alignment. The developers you interviewed early in your research could be your biggest advocates when you're ready to launch your solution. Research also helps build confidence in the opportunities you're going after and the solution you're building, not just for you and your team, but also for leadership. Sharing your research along with your insights with leadership is particularly effective if you're advocating for more investment in a certain platform. You can use the research to support strategic plans. Technical products can be harder for non-technical audiences to understand. Showing real customer pain points, quotes, and insights can help make something feel more personal and relatable. Now, I'll share a couple examples of what platform product research looks like in practice. This is an example of how you might represent your plans to build an API. For the purposes of this demonstration, I used AI to help me build a flowchart of an API in Miro. For an evaluative test to validate your plans early before executing, you can use a visual diagram to walk a customer through the process. You can get valuable feedback doing this, uncovering unknowns like how a particular step in the process might not work within an existing workflow, or where a user may get confused and you may want to invest more time creating clear error messaging, or you may discover you're not on the right track at all. These are quick and useful ways to get customer feedback early in the process. They're lightweight enough to iterate quickly. And they can also be really helpful for building alignment with technical leadership early, particularly when your solution or proposal is a large effort that may affect many teams or requires a big investment. And this is an example of synthesized research to inform a user journey of the product development process. I've generalized the parts of the process and updated the pain points here for the purposes of this slide, but I used a variation of this to visually express where there are opportunities to improve the development process. I started this customer research effort with stakeholder interviews and learned that there are some varying assumptions about where there were challenges in the product development process. Particularly, there were differences between what leadership thought was a problem and what developers actually developing thought were problems. I set out to identify pain points and opportunities across an entire platform and use the insights to inform roadmaps and future opportunities for many teams to address. I pulled in developers across a few teams in the platform product space to join me in crafting interview questions and be a part of the interview process. We interviewed dozens of engineers across all parts of the platforms. I went wide and broad because this was generative research and I wanted a broad view of the state of the world. As the interviews went on, I started to build out a user journey and shared a visual for developers to give insight and share what tools they used in different parts of the process, what was working well and what wasn't. This is the overview slide that is part of a broader synthesis of all of the insights and themes. The pain scale was based on frequency, severity, how bad was it, and just the general sentiment. There were future synthesis that I conducted that helped dive into each part of this process more deeply. This research effort was one of the more time-intensive efforts that I've done. However, the insights and synthesis were relevant and leveraged by teams for over a year and really helped teams make informed roadmap decisions. So it was definitely well worth the effort. Okay, let's recap. We talked about leveraging existing research and insights to help jumpstart your research plan. We talked about forming a plan and getting clear on your goals, leveraging an assumptions exercise to get out all those things we believe to be true that need validation. We talked about writing an interview script that's non-biased and objective. We talked about how to conduct an interview, inviting the whole team into the process. And finally, we talked about the insights and synthesizing into a set of recommendations or actions that can be shared with your team. Now I'm bringing this slide back again because it's so important. Accept no substitute for talking to and observing your customers. These people are relying on you to help them, particularly for platform products where your customers are your peers. You'd be surprised how willing people are to share a little bit of their time with you. A few interviews may completely change the way you approach your work, or you may learn that your instincts were right from the start. Either way, you're getting valuable insights that can help you deliver great platform products that are grounded in real customer needs. Thanks so much for your time today. Definitely reach out if you have any questions or want to get in touch. Thank you.